He had his gun, so he just swung it open.
I start to notice that, the atmosphere feels a little bit weird.
First thing he seen was this 6.5 foot tall, broad shoulder, dark hair. That freaked him out.
We hadn't talked to her about like life and death and what any of that means. She's 3 years old,
So we turned around. Suddenly there's a whole tree falling across the road.
And she was describing to us that, there was a deceased person that she could see visually.
You're listening to Cryptid Clues, where we tackle the ever-expanding history and mystery of monsters and supernatural madness every Monday. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca for more information, or even check out exclusive content and support us at patreon.com/CryptidClues.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Cryptid Clues. I am your host Taylor, and today we have a very special episode as I'm joined by Ryan Willis from the Sasquatch University. Ryan, thank you so much for being here, and if you'd please tell us about you and your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, by the way. So I'm Ryan Willis. I'm the founder and I guess not president anymore. New guys, Joel's president, who's also on the TV show with me, of the Trent University Sasquatch Society. And now I'm the host and producer of Sasquatch University coming to Wild TV this fall.
Very, very cool. So what is this show exactly about?
Yeah, so it's about myself and a few friends/researchers of mine. We go across Ontario following up with different Bigfoot reports and videos and evidence that have been sent to us, or we go out and investigate different things that have happened in Ontario. I'm sure people that are into Bigfoot know about a lot of the footage and evidence from up here, so that's kind of what the show's all about. And it's been pretty cool so far, and we're still filming this summer. I'm actually going next week, and we're filming again, so I'm excited for that. But it's been a pretty cool process, that's kind of what we're all about.
That's really cool. So I guess your passion is what kind of was the foundation for going into this initially and creating it? Yeah,
absolutely. So I've always been super passionate about Bigfoot, really ever since I was a little kid. Probably I was about 11 or 12 when I first got into the subject, kind of through, I'd watched a lot of Animal Planet, and then, they aired Finding Bigfoot, and I was just so fascinated with the subject. And it's been pretty cool because, kind of as I got older and I was a teenager and stuff, I'd go in the woods all the time. I'm actually up north at the family cottage right now, so up near Algonquin Park, and I'd go in go out in the woods with my friends, do night investigations, everything I can over the years, and kind of took away what I could learn from just watching Finding Bigfoot. And then by the time I went to Trent, formed the Trent University Sasquatch Society, and it's been pretty neat, especially too since we've had Matt and Cliff out from Finding Bigfoot as speakers to the society. So it's neat kind of going full circle to where, you're watching them on TV and trying to, do what they do out in the field. And then they're giving you a bunch of other students you've met that are interested in the same thing, advice on how to do that. So it's been pretty cool.
That's really, really awesome. I saw that you were able to interview Dr. Meldrum as well, which is fantastic. That was on your YouTube channel. Very, very envious. I'd love to talk to him at some point. But that's super cool. And so that information he gives you, then you're sharing with your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. Like usually when we have a speaker, we do it, via Zoom call. And we have a bunch of students on the call, and we kind of have like a Q&A with whoever the researcher is. So they get to ask all kinds of questions too. And I always have a ton of questions, and it's neat, especially, I think Dr. Meldrum too, we've had him out a few times now, I think, and then talked to him just kind of, on our own a few times. and awesome guy. And but I think I hope at least he gets a kick out of it too, because we have a lot of like science students in the society, so they actually had a lot of really good kind of science oriented questions about things he's written or done. So it was it was cool for sure. It was really interesting guy too, and I've talked to him a bunch outside of that. Really awesome guy.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So you say Ontario. When I do a lot of my research, I of course Pacific Northwest and then some of those southern states, but I've not found a lot of stuff going on with Ontario. So what can you tell me that's kind of popping off over there?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised too, because I think when you talk to people, and especially other researchers about Ontario, they're kind of like, oh, well, there's not really a lot going on there, but there's actually a few really good pieces of video evidence that I'm sure you've come across on the internet. I think a lot of people have, but maybe don't know it's Ontario. And then a lot of stuff that isn't from the internet, but has been sent into us over the past year or so that will be in the show. So I'm excited for people to see that, because I think as far as I know, it's not out on the internet yet or anything. So I think there'll be a lot of new stuff for people to kind of assess. And a big part of the show, kind of the, calling it Sasquatch University aspects, we get a lot of the different researchers and people to kind of assess what took place in each episode, or maybe the bit of evidence we found kind of at the end. So it'll be neat, and I think a lot of people that are into Bigfoot will have a lot of new things to kind of form an opinion about, because this is something us in the Bigfoot community love to do, watching and assessing these different videos and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So when it comes to Bigfoot, what exactly? I guess I say, what exactly do you do to kind of like find more information? Are you like headhunting out there looking for reports, or do you find people are pretty generous in submitting information to you?
So we've been kind of fortunate the past year or so. Like a lot of I guess media has taken an interest in. I think maybe because we're a bit younger, or because it's a bit more. I don't really know what kind of gets them. So I guess maybe obviously being Bigfoot too. But I think kind of the mix of all of it kind of gets them pretty interested. So we get a ton of media requests all the time. So I think that really helps, like having people know to get in touch with us, because I think there's a lot of people that have seen something or have a picture of something or know someone who has, and they don't know that like a lot of research groups exist out there. So I think we're kind of fortunate that, every few months we have an article on one of the, big news outlets here in Canada, pretty much saying like, I think some of them are even titled, "If you've seen Bigfoot, call this guy." So that's always very helpful in collecting reports. So we get a lot of stuff, and a lot of the people that reach out to us, I'm like, "Oh, have you guys ever reached out to so-and-so Bigfoot groups or the BFRO in Ontario?" And they're like, "Oh, we've never heard of that." So yeah, I think that really helps. But so a lot come in that way, and then just trying to reach out and speak with other researchers here in Ontario that know people, or had people send stuff into them. So yeah, kind of working together too. We try to do a lot of that with other guys here in Ontario, because there's a lot of really great researchers here in Ontario. So I at least try to share information with them and kind of collaborate when we can. So it's always good that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fantastic. That's how the community is going to grow too.
Absolutely.
Sheldon put on the Nicola Valley Bigfoot conference in Merritt, which is a small community out here in British Columbia, and he had a bunch of different researchers and people that are totally invested in Sasquatch just go and to this big stage and speak to it, and so many different pieces of information coming together. It was fantastic, and everyone's sharing things and stories. So that's how we can kind of grow. And I know it's a community that kind of can clash heads and ideas sometimes.
Absolutely. It's there's a lot of that, and we try to be very I guess kind of preventative of maybe students in the society ever kind of we try to really do a good job of making sure that people know to be respectful and open-minded and all that sort of, because there is a lot of that in the Bigfoot community, and people are like, oh, I know this and I'm not telling any of them that, or that guy's an idiot because he thinks Bigfoot does this and not that I say he does, and none of them can provide any real evidence of this, like the specific thing they claim about Bigfoot, like, what I mean? So there's a lot of like really negative talks that kind of I guess dudes just backlashing at each other and stuff online. And so we try to do a really good job of in our group not having any of that. And then also like within the Bigfoot community, we listen to everybody, so we really try to be open-minded to everyone. We never shut out like any researcher's opinion if they try to share something with us. So I think that's something that's really helped with kind of helping move the Bigfoot community forward in that sense, and getting it into the universities and kind of having a next generation of researchers. I think it's a very positive thing for the community, because it is unfortunate that so many people they're like, oh, that researcher, oh, like poo-poo him, I'm sure you see a lot of it, but and it's good. I saw online about the what is it, the Nicola Valley conference out there. It looked really cool, so I'm glad that went well. I wish I was out there. I would have come if I was on that side of the country.
That's super cool that you're able to see that it was advertised like on your side of the country, because for those listening, like, I'm on the west side of Canada, you're over on the east side, so but that's just fantastic. And again, vice versa, what you're doing reached out to me over here, and I think that's so valuable and so important, like these news media outlets that are showcasing your story and what you guys are trying to do. I find more often than not some media outlets can, maybe they're too friendly. I'm trying to be unbiased here, but when they talk about Bigfoot, they get kind of giddy, like, oh, and then in our backyard over here, we got like Bigfoot. And I often feel like it almost has like a sense of a disbelief when people listen to it. But again, it's hitting those individuals that it needs to hit at the right time, because then they reach out to you, and that just creates that network, that valuable network of information.
Yeah, it's really helped, like especially with not just getting in touch with other researchers, but like I said earlier, like witnesses and just so many other things, and then a lot of times too, another news thing will want to do a story which leads to even more witnesses getting in touch with you in a different part of the province that the news thing is from. So it's been really big, and no, I know what you mean. Like we had one reporter, I think it was CBC. Like he was pretty much like laughing at us the whole time, and every question, and it's like, geez, man. And I think Matt Moneymaker too got asked about something in the story, got quoted, and he went on some big rant about it in the BFRO Facebook group or something I saw, because I kind of forget now exactly what it was, but they kind of twist it sometimes. Sometimes they're really good, but you never really know what you're gonna get. But it's just a part of it, I guess. But and then like other ones that like, and you guys are serious about this, right? It's like, it's like, yes, like we've been through this before, yes, like we've. So it's it's all part of it though, and I think it has a much more positive impact outside of maybe that reporter having a bit of a snicker for a few minutes. It really does help make other people aware of what we're doing, and spread a good message now that it's something that's being kind of talked about in universities like at Trent, and we've talked to people at some other schools that have said they're interested in starting societies, which is something we've really tried to push forward, because I think like the more people that try to get this into universities, the bigger a thing it becomes within academia, and it's taken more seriously, and that helps get obviously more funding and science and things like that kind of behind Bigfoot research, which I think is very valuable, and unfortunately not a lot of at this time, or not enough of. There is stuff out there, but yeah, not as much as it should be, for sure.
I've never heard of a university period really having groups or organizations set up like what you have created. So I feel like you're definitely spearheading a new foundation, like a new trajectory of something here for universities.
Yeah, I hope so. And yeah, it was nice too, because like the students really get into it, and it's neat when like you'll have a call or something or a meeting with the club, and then like some students will come to you with something about Bigfoot like I hadn't even heard of, and so it's always nice seeing them get into it, and I'm not like a trend student anymore, but it's nice to see that it's still being carried on by Joel and all the others there, and it'll be around after I'm gone. But I still hope to play a good role in it. I've actually been asked to come back to Trent next year as like a guest lecturer in a course that's discussing Bigfoot. And it was nice. One of my old profs reached out to me and said he's doing a course on Bigfoot and saw what we're doing at the school and including it in his course. And and he's going to include one of the episodes of the show coming out in the syllabus. So I think that'll be a pretty cool thing. Not just
good
having
for you guys.
Yeah, thanks. But like not just having it in the society, but having something that it's actually being taught in the school courses there, or university courses. So I'm glad that's something we really hoped would happen at some point. So I'm glad it's already starting to happen now.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Yeah, that sets the pace, I feel like, for people like you mentioned at other universities that are doing their own groups. They can see it happen here and they can make it happen where they are. So I think that's fantastic. Now I'm curious, with these individuals that come forward and reach out to you with some crazy stories, you as your own person, do you have like a cap where, I mean, you receive everything and you take everything with an open mind, which is fantastic, but do you cap it yourself at where you think Bigfoot kind of lies?
Well, I mean, like, do you mean like when, maybe a certain individual's like story kind of gets to a point where it's just so kind of wild and out there where it's like, I'm not sure that this person's being honest with me type of thing, or...
Well, something along the lines of, let's say, orbs make an appearance, a UFO makes an appearance, or a dog man is thrown in there, which I'll tie another cryptid to another question later, but something along those lines.
Yeah, we do get a lot of stuff like that, and like certain things like with the orb stuff, we do listen to those, especially because like there does seem to be we haven't received like a ton of orb stuff, but like especially online and with different researchers, like the orb stuff seems to be a pretty prominent thing sometimes. So it's definitely something we listen to when we hear it. And like like I said, we do really listen to everything, and no matter what it is or how kind of like crazy it sounds, because I think we're not really staying true to kind of what we set out to do if we don't listen to everybody, no matter how kind of out there it is. But there are some times where we'll get someone that does seem very sort of out of their mind, and sometimes, like I think we had one guy we were talking with last summer, and we interviewed him on camera, and I kind of got the feeling maybe he was like lying to, so I kept just asking questions about whatever we could, and I kind of made it more and more kind of next level ridiculous, like, and have you come across this before? And then he'd kind of be like, oh well, I don't, and then he'd be like, yeah, I have, this actually happened to me here. And I think he said something about something happening to him in downtown Toronto. I was like, what? Like, and so there's stuff like that where you kind of like ask the next question, and then they it's something that like you think it really happened to someone, they kind of tell you right away if like a flying saucer came at them wherever, and you think they'd bring that up, but then they kind of go, oh, I forgot about that, but yeah, that did happen. And it's like, well it's a little suspicious. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe more than a little, but yeah, there's those types of things where we're kind of like, okay, we don't really know about this one, but we always do listen, and mm-hmm. But yeah, we do look out for those, because we do get a lot of those. But with that being said, there are a lot of ones where I find them to be very, very credible, and maybe the story is a little more wild sometimes, but there are ones that I do think are very, very credible, and good people that just want to share what they saw. And and you sometimes we go there and you meet their families too, and they're like, yeah, they were talking about this like back 20, 30 years ago when this happened to them. And we were all really, there's a whole, everyone kind of has their own backstory to it, and kind of, grandma or grandpa said this thing we didn't really believe, like we thought was a bit out there back then, but they've always stuck with it. And it's neat when you come across those, because I think there's a lot of substance to those. But you get all manner of reports, and I'm sure you've seen too, and most people that are into Bigfoot. So there's ones you have to take with a grain of salt, but that's kind of how it goes.
Absolutely. I'm curious what your thoughts are on like other cryptids, or where you draw the line on that, I guess, as terms of like, Bigfoot for sure, but then a dogman, or I think you have out your way, is it, pardon my memory here, is it Bessie, or, because I know we have the Ogopogo.
Yeah.
And I know you have I think, is it Lake Erie? You have a large underwater cryptid out there. I'm just curious what you think of all these other ones.
I'm not sure if I've heard of the Lake Erie I think I've heard of one in Lake Champlain or something, which is kind of a bit further out east from here. But I've definitely heard of Ogopogo, and things like Loch Ness Monster and the Chupacabra, and Dogman, and I'm definitely not as well read on all those as I am Bigfoot, but I do take some time every now and then and read up on things to do with them. And I don't know, it's interesting. And I haven't talked to very many researchers on that side, but I read a lot online just about stuff in general. And it's neat. Like the researchers I have talked to Dogman about, they're like, I haven't really ever talked to like a Dogman witness, face to face or anything. But I've talked to some researchers that have, and they're pretty convinced, as to what people have been seeing with these other cryptids. And so I obviously don't know as much about some of them as Bigfoot. I know about more some more than others, but I think there definitely could be something there with some of them. Then there's other ones or certain stories you hear and you kind of go, oh, that sounds a little crazy, or a little I don't know if that. But then it's kind of the same thing with Bigfoot. It's kind of like I maybe I shouldn't write that off as so many people that aren't into Bigfoot would do with Bigfoot. And I'm into Bigfoot, so maybe I don't write off a Bigfoot thing. But maybe I hear like a Dogman when I'm like, oh, I'm not as convinced. But I mean, and I don't know so much about like the lore, the backstories to Dogman, or what a lot of the theories are there. I'm sure there's a bunch of different ones similar to Bigfoot. But and I think I saw some sort of stat that there's been a lot more sightings ever since like the 60s or something of Dogman, which is kind of I've heard some people suggest it's like kind of a analytic that suggests it's more of a pop or media, like new age online thing where one person says they saw a Dogman, so more people start saying they saw one, kind of thing. And but I don't know. I mean, like when I talk to the researchers that have talked to people that have seen Dogman and stuff, they're pretty convinced. And I think I haven't really seen too many pictures, but I think there are things like that go along with some of the stories and stuff. So it's neat. It's interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. Each one is definitely its own kind of can of worms situation, and it's hard to expect anyone to like dedicate their lives to like every single cryptid. And I feel like how could anyone really do it? So I think just focusing on like that linear one, like your Bigfoot, I think that's fantastic. Like on our podcast, we talk about all different sorts of things, but I mean, we're not going down the rabbit holes on every single one. We do what we can and try and create like a little bit of a foundation for different things. But Bigfoot is like, for you guys, that's me and my co-host. We love to just invest all our time into that kind of research.
Yeah, no, I bet. I mean, I would love to know more about the other cryptids. It's definitely something on my agenda to spend more time learning about for sure, because it is quite fascinating, and I've kind of been putting a lot more time over the past year or so into reading about some ghost stuff and talking to some like people that are into that side of things, and it's pretty interesting too. So it's yeah, definitely something with all of it I want to learn more about. But yeah, it's definitely been it's always kind of been Bigfoot for me. Bigfoot's always kind of been my main thing. But I love the other things too. Especially I've always had a huge interest in ghosts too, and things like that. So
Ghosts are, yeah, there's something fascinating with that. Being in British Columbia, a lot of our buildings are really not old. I mean, you can go back maybe like 150 years around that, but again, that's not really old. If you go back to like eastern side of Canada, and I mean even in Europe where you're dealing with buildings that are really really old, then that's when you get really cool things happening in the paranormal aspect. So you're probably situated in like a gold mine for paranormal things.
yeah. I mean, we do have some older spots and buildings here in Ontario. I know in Toronto, Casa Loma is a really big known one for being haunted, and I think there's three ghosts there, and yeah, I remember having some field trips there as like a little kid in Toronto. Yeah, being pretty freaked out hearing some of the tales and stuff. But yeah, and there's a lot of others now that I'm older I've heard of too, and in different places. So it's pretty neat, especially when you kind of hear the histories and you hear like of people seeing an apparition that matches a description of someone that was known to live there at a certain point and had some sort of event that took place that would kind of be explicable as to why their spirit still remained, type of thing. But yeah, it's too bad, I guess, that maybe you guys don't have so many I guess ghost hunting spots in BC. But I'm sure there's some good ones. Whereabouts over there are you situated precisely?
I am in the Okanagan, so right at like Ogopogo's doorstep, you could say. But there are a few places. There's I know an asylum in Kamloops that was shut down, and I think a lot of it's been kind of like torn down, but that was definitely haunted. They made it an escape room, I think, at one point that tourists could go and do, which just sounds terrifying to me. But there's a couple spots, but yeah, nothing really, really old. I mean, it took a while for settlers to kind of get out here and start settling down.
Yeah, no, it's too bad. Yeah, maybe we should make a trade because you guys got all the good Bigfooting spots out there. you go here, I go there, but
Done deal.
Yeah, no, BC is a great place. I've been out there a few times now, and it's such dense, great Squatch country, and huge mountains too. Obviously, such an awesome place.
Yeah, I a lot of my friends, they're not believers, and I don't blame them. I don't blame a lot of people, but they default to certain kind of comments about like, well, why haven't we found a body, this and that, and I don't have all the answers. I mean, I'm just a guy behind a microphone. I've gone out a couple times and tried to stir the pot a little bit to see what I could see out in the woods, but the best thing I could say is when you're driving out in British Columbia, and I'm sure it's like this in Ontario too at parts, but you're going down a highway and you look off to the side and you see forest. Anything could just be 5 feet behind the tree line there and you wouldn't ever see it. And when you go further into the Pacific Northwest, it's just like eons and eons of that. It's insanity.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. And like some of the other researchers I've talked with and kind of asked that question, why haven't we found a body yet? I think that's a big one a lot of people have. And usually every meeting with the Trent Sasquatch Society, there's someone who asks that question to the researchers we speak with. And I think Cliff had a pretty good point on that, Cliff Barrickman, and said like he thinks that there's not really been a team out there long enough for a long enough period of time to I guess locate and find one of these things, because it's something obviously that we have really good groups that dedicate a lot of time to being out there, and but it's not like a funded thing where we have teams of many scientists out there in a certain part of the woods, for however long it takes, being funded to do this. It's usually people out there for a week or a few weeks, or I know of other groups that are able to stay out there kind of on shifts for weeks and weeks and weeks. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Like, here in Ontario, we have kind of the alleged eastern cougar, and tons of people have seen them. There's pictures, but I think only like maybe I'm not 100% sure if it's just one body, but I think it's either one or if I spent some time researching it one time, talking to some biologists, but very few bodies in Ontario are ever found. Very few are ever seen, but they're here, and there's pictures, and people see them, and I have family that's seen them, and you kind of talk to people that live out. Like, I'm in a Algonquin Park right now. I was just talking to someone the other day who knew someone that saw one right around here, and so they are here, but it's something the government doesn't admit or hear, or I guess know or hear. I kind of compare that, because I think a lot of people in Ontario know someone who's seen a cougar, and a lot of people believe that they're here, and it's kind of the same thing with Bigfoot, but you never see any cougar bodies, or no one's really able to capture one. I think it goes to prove, because that's a species obviously we know exist with cougars, but in a different part of the country, and they're here too. I think it's a pretty good example of how an intelligent species can stay hidden if it wants to, and people see them, and there's the odd video clip that turns up, but yeah, there's never a body found. It's very similar to the cougar, I think, and it's a very good comparable in that sense, because like I said, there's no body, but there's lots of video, and we have video of Bigfoot here in Ontario, and same with cougars. And so I think that's a reason or explanation as to how so many people have seen these things, and there's no body that's been found yet.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great note, actually, and just kind of comparison towards Bigfoot, just using that reliable data and applying it to Sasquatch. I think that's really, really good. That's something I like to do too. It kind of helps create like a baseline of something that you can, I don't know, learn more about, and maybe kind of figure it out when it's really, you don't have anything to really figure out with at the start, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it really does. And I think a lot of people, and a lot of the naysayers, I think, really kind of come from, places like big cities or big areas of big populace. And, you talk to people, I spend a lot of time in Toronto, and then I spend a lot of time up here in Algonquin at certain times of the year in Ontario. And, you come further up here, and you talk to more people that, I've even talked to some people in the area that have seen Bigfoots in Algonquin. And then, you go down to Toronto, and most people just kind of shrug it off and think it's a joke. And, so I think when you spend time out in the bush and you're out in really remote areas, you kind of come to understand how there's just, so many things out there that people just don't know about. And there's so much wilderness, and there's so many places to hide. And I just the other day, like I was just, on the road, kind of a remote road here where my cottage is, and big moose comes out of the woods, but you don't even hear them, right? Like, they're huge, and you don't hear them at all. And I was doing some emails for the show down in like my living room, and there was just a deer outside the window. You don't even hear them come up. Like, there's so much of that. And I think, I think people that are wilderness people really kind of understand how species can hide and not go detected, and they're very good at that. And mm-hmm. I think people in big populous areas just don't really comprehend how much wilderness and forest is out there, where there's just nobody that's in those places. That's why people get lost all the time too, and never get found or seen. Certain hikers, and then these are people too that, like, a lot of missing hiking trails and stuff, or or hikers that go missing. They're often on marked trails that people know about, and maybe they, who knows each time, but often maybe you wander off the path a bit and you get lost, and you just never get, they're never seen again type of thing. So I think people really kind of underestimate how well animals can hide in these places.
Yeah, that's very well said. And it's interesting how people in cities have kind of flipped, I would say, with people that lived out in more remote areas, or just kind of out in like farmlands, that sort of stuff. Because go back like 50 years, there's a lot of cottages, farms, all that sort of stuff. And cities were still relatively small. Like there were still some that were largely scaled, but the population densities have completely flipped now, and most people are living in cities, and the mentality has changed with that, which is unfortunate. Because you're right, you live in a city and you think like, oh, this is it, and you go out into the woods, it's a totally different experience. And a lot of people that live in the cities, I bet they would never ever stay in the woods alone. That's a completely like unfathomable thing for them to do.
Yeah, no, I don't think they would. And I think a big attitude kind of comes with, being someone from more, densely populated areas. They kind of know everything. They kind of, not all the time, but in terms of, when you talk about Bigfoot with a lot of them, I just notice a real change in open-mindedness when I come, I go to more remote areas. And yeah, I think it's just, I think it's something, if you don't experience, maybe you don't necessarily comprehend the same. I mean, I think it's not too hard if it's something you try to comprehend, because like if you just pull out a map on your phone, you can look at the world and you see like how big these places are. And like even here in Ontario, right? Like, you can go further north in the province and there's just so much room. So like there's so much space and there's nobody there. Like there's some small towns, but most of it is just forest. And yeah, same with the rest of Canada and a lot of the states. So I think people really kind of underestimate how much space there is out there, and we don't have people scouring even a tiny percentage of the forest that we have in North America, looking for these things that obviously are intelligent and know how to hide. So I think that's a big part of, why there hasn't been a body found, and people kind of have a very naysay attitude about it.
Mm-hmm. You have concentrated hubs of cities along like the Canadian-American border, I'd say. Like that's like the most densely populated. And then you have like cities that are more north of that. Yeah. So those are still places where I feel like any intelligent species will know, okay, I'm going to kind of stay clear from that and stick to the more remote areas. At least that's one of the thoughts that I have on that. But a bit ago you mentioned government, and I just wanted to circle back to that because I'm kind of curious where you stand on how the government is kind of affiliated or aware. I'm not sure what the right word would be in terms of relating to Bigfoot.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting because, yeah, like I've, encountered a lot of people that have stories or have said things about, government cover-ups or government just trying to hide this and that, or they know all this. And then, you hear other rumors about Bigfoot kill squads and things like that. And, I've talked with a lot of people about those things because, I'm a very curious person. So if there is something to them, I'd love to know about it. But yeah, and I can't really say because these are just things. I've never been out in the woods bigfooting and then heard a bunch of helicopters come and heard some shooting. When I thought there was a Bigfoot nearby, and so they're not my experiences. So I can't really say whether it's happening or not. I don't really know. I'm very fascinated with the idea of it, of this stuff taking place, and also why, obviously. But yeah, you do hear a lot of it with different researchers. So it's I do find it kind of compelling when you have a lot of people that are kind of saying the same thing and say they know people or know someone that, has a story that kind of goes along with what everyone else is saying. And a lot of them are very, cautious about I guess, what information they share, or not giving away names of who these people are that have had these experiences. And we'll get messages sometimes too, kind of with similar stories saying, don't share my name, don't share this, don't share that. And then, even some of the ones we have gotten regarding those things, you get people, you'll follow up with them and say, like, oh, hey, thanks for reaching out. We'd love to talk about this further. And then you get the, don't forget it. I didn't say anything, like, never mind. Right. Just, it's too dangerous. And, so yeah, it's, so sometimes you get those emails and you're kind of there scratching your head because you don't really know exactly what they're talking about, because sometimes they haven't gotten to it yet, and other times they do, and they're afraid to talk about it. A lot of ones I noticed too are kind of afraid to talk about it electronically, or they want to use certain I guess VPNs and things they think will cover it. And I don't know, I always find that a bit ridiculous. I mean, if the government wants to find something out, they're going to find, you know what I mean? Like, if they want to know what you're messaging about, they're going to know. Unless you're using, like, pen and paper and unaware of your, yeah. But I think anything you do through the internet, they're going to know. So I don't know. I find that a bit preposterous sometimes, but yeah, I mean, but it is interesting, and I don't know if there's something there, but I have talked with a lot of researchers that really believe there's stuff going on in terms of the government covering certain things up, or whether it's kill squads or just silencing people, or the black helicopters come. I'll be talking to some researchers or be on some podcasts, and they'll be like, oh, have the black cars started, like, circling your house yet? I'll be like, oh, no, not yet, but yeah, it's interesting. I've never experienced it, but hey, maybe someday I will, and I won't, maybe I won't be able to talk about it after. They'll who knows what they'll do, but yeah, but it's interesting for sure, and it really makes me wonder if there is something there. Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely possible with how many people kind of I guess say that those things are happening, but I really have no idea if it genuinely is.
Yeah, I like how you say that so many people are reporting these similar things, and, like, on a scale aside from, like, government related black helicopters, but just when you have people all around the world saying, like, they see bipedal hairy thing walking around, I feel like that's just such a great piece of evidence to support the cause of Bigfoot in general, because they're in cultures across the world and they've been represented for centuries. And you look at certain religious texts and other things like that. Like, it's just fascinating how it's still disregarded to a small degree. I'm kind of rambling on that, but the way you said, like, other people are just all kind of sharing the same thing, it just, that pops into my head, and it's such a credible piece of, like, a foundation that you can run with. So
yeah, no, it really is, because sometimes you hear one story from one person that maybe sounds a little out there, or not too, like usually you hear some things and you go, okay, like, well, typically you'd assume that it's not possible, or not legitimate sometimes, and we always keep an open mind, go investigate and fully hear them out, but yeah, it's neat when you get certain things, especially things that are I guess could be considered really out there, especially like the government stuff, and you get so many people saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then obviously when you kind of look at Bigfoot with that, you get so many people for hundreds of years saying the same thing, in often in the same areas, and yeah, so it's pretty cool, like, and it's something that when we start getting a lot of those, we really, kind of take a really huge interest and take the time to talk with a lot of people about whatever the specific thing is, and really try to, figure it out. And because, I think, I don't know. I guess like whether, you're looking at it analytically and you have a bunch of people saying the same thing, or I just find it really interesting myself. It's always super cool. I think it adds like a real additional level of credibility when you're looking at this stuff.
Mm-hmm, for sure. To kind of run back to your team, and you go off and you research and you connect with these individuals. Did you find it difficult to kind of like piece together this team, or when you started this off, did people just come like running and like just attracted to this idea? And did you find it relatively easy to create a team or assemble a team to go off and do these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of getting a team of people that were interested, we had a lot of ease. Like the more difficult thing is finding a team that is able to go and actually follow up on things and do research, because you get so many people that, whether they message us or just at the university through the society, are like, oh, I'm super interested. I'd love to come out with you guys when you're doing this thing. And that's like, okay, like this one we're planning to go, like, you want to come with? It's like, I'm busy then, right? And it, it's totally fair. Like it makes sense. People are busy with stuff all the time. But like we get a lot of interest, and the society now has over 200 members. So, there's a lot that way. But in terms of actually like getting people together to go out and research different things, especially when it's away from where the university is, out in Peterborough, Ontario, it can be tricky. But we're very fortunate. We have a really great group, and they're great guys, and we always have a fun time when we're out there too. So it's especially when we're filming like with the show team, and last time we were out filming, we had a great time. We got a lot of great stuff, and we actually thought we had some rocks thrown. There was something being thrown, which was pretty interesting. We didn't get anything on the therm, but it was. You'll see in the show if you watch when it comes out. But so that was pretty interesting, and it really kind of, that was something where I really kind of went like, that. I guess you hear a lot of reports of rocks being thrown. It's like, well, why did they throw a rock at you, right? Like, what were you, and then a lot where, a lot of the reports were like they didn't see something, but there were rocks being thrown, and they got a really creepy feeling, and they smelled something coming out. Like, that's kind of what happened to us. Like, so you really, you kind of, I guess, think about it a little bit more. So I'm excited for the next few times we're going out. We've got some really good stuff planned. But yeah, we have a really great team, and we're pretty lucky to have guys that are really interested, and then the society beyond that's super interested, and have a lot of really great students that always have great questions when we have researchers out. So it's been really good that way.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. I'm curious, if you didn't have the team, would you go out solo, or would it terrify you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was pretty much what I was doing before I got to Trent and kind of met some other people that went, oh, no way, I love Bigfoot too. And I'd go out by myself, which is always really creepy. Or, and then sometimes I'd get friends with me and stuff. But it's nice going when you have a team, because, you feel a bit safer, and you're a little more, I guess, confident to try certain things, or because, you're out there and it's like, okay, I'll try a Bigfoot call. I'll try doing some tree knocks or, whatever. And, you kind of go, oh, what if one shows up, right? Like, kind of that thought kind of creeps you out, or even just running into other animals out there. So, that always definitely weighs on your mind. Like one of the last times we were out filming, we were in a place that's pretty well known for like mountain lions, and one of our guys on our team had even seen one not too far from there. So I was like a little spooked, even though I had kind of the easy job of, I was in like a tree stand kind of scanning a huge bog and forest with a therm, while the other guys were out kind of doing a walk through the area, to kind of doing a scan. But but yeah, that always definitely weighs on your mind for sure. So, but I would definitely still go out solo. Yeah.
Wow, good on ya. Oh my goodness. My co-host and I, we went out, and it was our first time going out. And the mentality when you're out there, it's dark and you're alone, you're isolated. And I'm glad he was with me because, yeah, when you start doing things, it suddenly becomes real. Like, what if the one does show up? What do you do? But we haven't had anything happen really on our end yet. Although every time we go out, we understand how to change our tactics. And I'm sure that's the case with you guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we always try to, every time we're out, and then especially whenever we're out, like to film the show, we try to do something that's different each time to kind of switch it up and I guess kind of, show the viewers and people interested that are watching kind of each method and tactic that they'd be able to go try themselves. That's kind of been like a known thing to do when looking for Bigfoot. And yeah, so we always try to switch it up. And but yeah, I mean, sometimes, when you're leaving by the end, I like one of the last times we were out, the time I mentioned, like a little mosquito here. Oh, I think I got him.
There you go. Right on.
But yeah, last time when we were walking out there, we were really spooked after the stuff with the rocks. So, you kind of, and it's just pitch black, and it gets real really quickly. And so I think a lot of stuff starts creeping in the back of your mind, and most of the time you're usually always fine. And it's just the dark, but
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does get freaky really fast for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that kind of is coming to a close of my questions. Is there anything you wanted to share or put out to the world that anyone listening can tune into?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just in terms of the show, and obviously kind of talking about it now, we have a lot of really great stuff planned. So I'm excited to see it, and it airs September 25th on Wild TV this September. So yeah, I'm excited for people to check that out and kind of learn more about Bigfoot in Ontario and see a lot of the evidence that's out here and what people have been seeing, because I think it'll kind of help change a lot of people's opinion, not just on the existence of Bigfoot, but Bigfoot being something that's here in Ontario. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to when it comes out and people kind of see what we got up to filming. So yeah, it's exciting for sure.
That's fantastic. We'll definitely be plugging it on our show as we get closer to it. Try and get more people informed on it for you.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, for messaging us, just our website, sasquatchuniversity.com, but then with the show on Wild TV or the channel or Wild TV Plus, you just go to their site. I think they have everything there, how to get the channel depending on your providers and stuff. But yeah, that's how you either get in contact with us or check out the show.
Fantastic. Yeah, I guess that's it. Unless there's anything else you want to sneak in there.
No. I mean, I think I got everything. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Taylor. It's been really awesome talking with you, and I hope we do this again sometime with the rest of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I when you pitched like, oh, I'll see if I can get some other team members on, I was blown away. Like, oh my gosh, that would be fantastic. So if we coordinated in the future, I can get my co-host on. That would be such a cool conversation to have with your whole crew there.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. It's a little tricky coordinating all of them sometimes, but I'm sure they've been pretty busy at the start of the summer. But near the end, like kind of August or September, their schedules kind of open up a bit. So I think we'll have a lot more time to do a group one. Hopefully, you get your co-host on too. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Right on. That sounds awesome. Well, Ryan, again, thank you so very much for being here. I'm happy we were able to do this. And to all our listeners out there, you can find us at CryptidClues.ca on our social media channels, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, along with our Patreon, where you get ad-free early episodes there. So until next time, everyone, take care and stay safe.
Bye.